How's it all? Welcome. This is the 21 FAO study group. First video lesson, which will be introduction, and basically I'll just talk about the purpose, intent of the study group, what it's not for, how our schedule, how our studying is going to break down, and then just a few minutes of perspective on the driver's position, the FAO position. And yeah, that's it. Maybe 20 minutes or so. So first thing I'd like to mention is that I'm kind of doing this on my own. I've always done study groups in the past. I think this is maybe my fourth study group. I know I did two for driver and two for captain. In fact, the other night I was reviewing some of my old 2015 captain exam prep, and man, the material is just so different then. But for better, it's for better now that we're focused on our own institutional knowledge, right? Our own materials, our own department materials. So definitely a step in the right direction. But also want to mention that I do this study group just kind of in as an extra, in addition. This is no way affiliated with the department. Yeah, it's just my opportunity, or the chance I get to help firefighters outside the norms of work is how I look at it. So just wanted to add that in real fast. So the purpose and intent of this study group. It is, the way I look at it is a mechanism. One of the first things it is it's a mechanism to help us absorb and better learn the SOGs. So at times it can feel, from my point of view, this is my own point of view, that we can be disconnected from the SOGs, as in, well, this is what the SOGs say, this is what we do. Well, this is what the SOGs say, this is what we do. And part of our success as a department, as responders, is as much as possible to connect to the material, right? So as institutional knowledge, we want to learn it so we have a foundation for our response, or for how we do procedural tasks, administrative tasks, training, response, and then as a foundation. And then when we're actually confronted with this decision making, we have a foundation, and then we add in our pragmatic approach based on our Rolodex, based on our skills, based on our own knowledge and culture and values, and then we respond effectively. So first and foremost is that this study group is a mechanism to build our SOG knowledge, get it more automatic, right? Versus episodic, we're trying to remember, like, connect to it. It becomes more procedural. It's just built into the way we do things as responders. And that that also highlights one of the important things is, throughout my own journey, I've had a lot of chance to learn different things, and being a part of this study group will also allow me the opportunity to share some of the things I've learned. Not good or bad, not right or wrong, just from my point of view, lessons learned that you guys can take and use throughout your own careers. More anecdotal versus anything else. One of the things I want to mention that this group is not meant specifically to prepare you for the driver's exam, or for any exam in particular. What you'll hear me say constantly throughout this study group is I am always trying to reconnect us to the material. I'm trying to reconnect us to the material with our work duties, or with our day-to-day responsibilities. So as I say, for example, I have the captain's group concurrently wrapping up this week. But one of the things I always highlight in there is you cannot just ramp up for exams. This is meant to build habits throughout our careers, and connect. Just so happens that we have an exam now, and connect how preparation for an exam ties into the bigger picture of our careers, right? So that's one of the main things that this group will focus on. But with that said, this group, me being a chief officer, I will share nothing in this group that I cannot share based on any knowledge I have of the examination process that is not known to the department. So for example, I did write a few assessments for the different exams coming up, captains, drivers, the other ranks as they come up. But I will in no way share any of those assessments with you guys. All the assessments I'm writing are from scratch. I have no knowledge of anything on the exam. Just writing assessments and quizzes from scratch, practice exams from scratch. And again, what it is, it's an approach to look at the SOGs in various ways. So for example, if I send out practice, well, of course, the exams, the practice exams, the practice assessments, and then also say I send out practice interview questions. These are just various ways to look at how we can prepare for getting a base in the SOG to help us better, in this case, prepare for an exam, but really reflect on our careers. But yeah, so I won't share anything that I've done if I've had any part in the examination process, which I do have very little of, just so you know too. So I want to be clear that this is for knowledge-based building. It's I can't prepare you for an exam because I don't actually know what's on the exam. So I just want to make sure that you guys know that. Even when I write the assessments and practice exams, I don't actually know what the format is for the assessments. I don't know how the questions are written for the exams. This is just, again, just various ways to build knowledge in the SOGs. I think a byproduct of being in this study group is if you are preparing for the examination, yes, it can help, but what I want to emphasize is if this really mattered to you and you're preparing for the driver's exam with the intent of being promoted to driver, this study group is not going to make or break you. You know, if you were to ask me, I think this study group would improve your score 2 points, maybe to 5 points. But it's not like you were going to score a 40 overall and now you're in this study group, so you're going to score 70. That's not how this works. You got to remember that if you wanted it before, this study group is not a difference maker. And if you weren't focused or dialed in before either, this study group is not going to force you or make you do that. So, like you guys hear me say from time to time, all I'm doing is providing tools, right? Mock assessments, practice exams, mock interview questions. These are just tools. I can't make you read. I can't make you study. No one can take the exam for you. So that's all self-directed based on where you are in your career, what goals you hope to accomplish, and your motivation to move in a certain direction at this point. But yes, it could help you with a few points here or there, and I guess in that way it could be a difference maker. So for example, when I took the captain's exam in 2013, I scored, and this was under the old system, mind you, but I scored on a written, I went back and checked, I scored 103 out of 115. So that is 89, 90%. 90%. But with because again, as you guys know, I was on the lower end of seniority, even though I had a bachelor's degree, that took my score down from 90 all the way to 82 adjusted, which still put me in the first round. But I mean, if so, you take away just a few of those correct answers, now I dropped down to 101, 199 out of 115. I'm down now to 80, 79. So in that case, it would have been a difference maker because I wouldn't have gotten to the interview at all. So yeah, it could potentially be, but yeah, I just want to reemphasize that this is all based on your effort. Yeah, just being here in this group is not going to make you any smarter, any more ready for the test. Just tools. So I want to talk about the study schedule a little bit I sent to you guys. So if you were in the previous study group, or if you're, the ongoing study group, the captain study group, I think I saw 7 or 8 names on this list that are in the current study group. I made 2 schedules. So one schedule is a heavy schedule and one schedule is a light schedule. The intent of the heavy schedule is that you put in the time to read the SOGs. So when I say SOGs, I mean SOGs and rules and regs. but it is with the intent that you put in the time to read the SOGs front to back once a week, all 800 some odd pages. So the average human reads about 40 pages 40 pages an hour. So basically you're looking at reading about 20 hours, give or take, on your reading speed a week if you're on the heavy schedule. Now if you're on the light schedule, I believe it is 6 to 7 hours reading a week. So with the intent of the light schedule is that you will make it through the entire rules and regs over these 6 weeks twice. People ask me how I would study if I were studying for any exam, the captain's exam, the driver's exam. And what I say is, it really doesn't matter how I study. So what I want to emphasize is these are sample schedules. You can choose to follow one or the other of the sample schedules, but what I would really encourage you to do is to explore for yourself how you study well. So for example, for me, I'm a volume reader. Yeah, and I'm not a note taker. Note taking doesn't work for me, and volume reading does. So if I were in this study schedule, I'd be reading through the SOGs more than once a week. I'd be shooting for reading the entire SOGs twice a week, because I'm a volume reader. I do not retain reading first. You know, we all know those smart guys that can. I'm not one of them. I have to read over and over, and note taking does nothing for my retention, so I don't take notes. Other people are going to be different or going to be opposite. Some people can study from outlines. Some people can study from skimming. Some people can read through once and they got it. And some guys need to do heavy note taking for their retention. So one thing I would encourage you to do this week, at the beginning of the week, is sit down and write down on a piece of paper what you know about yourself and your study habits and what is successful for you. Because from there, you can use these sample schedules. Again, they're written to be followed if that's what you choose to do. But from there, you can use these sample schedules to adjust and make your own schedule to set yourself up for best success. And that is really the intent of what I hope to do and point you in the direction I hope to point you in with the sample study schedules. So yeah, take 5-10 minutes, get out a piece of paper, jot down, well, I know I study good in chunks, or I know I study good in long stretches. Like me, I think I said this in the captain's one, but I have to study 4 or 5 hours straight without breaks. I'm not a guy that can study 50 minutes on, 10 minutes off, 50 minutes on, 10 minutes off, because I do not come back. I need to settle in and do long stretches. If not, I'm too distracted. So write down, how do you like to study? I like to read. I like to highlight. I like to take notes. If I have practice exams, I like to do a practice exam once, correct all my answers, and then take it again at the end of the week, which is suggested for the heavy schedule. Or, no, I just like to practice once. Also, do you want to read the section that is being tested on that week, or would you rather take it cold? Some people like to take it cold, so it feels fresh, feels like a real exam. Others, to build success, is they want to read first and then match up their answers. It's another way to synthesize, right? To create more building base in your knowledge. But yes, so please feel free to go through the study schedule and feel free to email or text me any questions that you may have on how you could adopt it or challenges you see for yourself. And if you need any advice, again, feel free to hit me up. So yes, the study schedule. Why 6 weeks? No reason in particular. I know it's a tough time with the holidays, but I found that the 6-week schedule was a very successful for me, not for necessary for them. We'll see this week, right? It was a very successful schedule for me as far as planning and meeting the requirements for the schedule. Also, because we don't know at this point when the driver's exam will be, I would anticipate it, not going to share anything I know, but I would anticipate it to be January. Definitely not later than that, maybe before, maybe creeping into the end of this year. But which is why I know it's tough because it's the holidays, but I kind of wanted to stick to that 6-week schedule format, just like I did for the captain's exam, and take us through right through the end of the year. And whenever the exam happens to be, we will be ready. If it happens to be sneak in there at the end of this year, we'll be ready. If it comes out that the driver's exam is mid January. Then we'll have 2 extra weeks. I'll throw in a few more assessments, a few more practice quizzes, and we'll keep going. We'll keep going. So if you are not qualified for this driver's exam, I think out of this study group, it is about 60-40 are, 60% are qualified. If you are not, what I do want to encourage is, take this as another learning opportunity. Take this as preparation. I see a bunch of you guys are in your 5th year. Who knows? Maybe the driver's test comes back up next year and now you qualify and you're this much further ahead. Use it. What I would advise, or what I would recommend, is use it to build your skills. So this is going to come up later, but just remember to use it to build your skills. So again, the schedule should be a starting point if you do not want to use it as it is written, but it can be. But again, I would encourage you that really explore how you learn and put that down in a schedule based on these 6 weeks. Every week you're going to get a video lesson, at least 2 assessments, and a practice exam. 25, eventually building up to 50 question practice exams. So because maybe you want to volume read for the first 4 or 5 weeks and save all the assessments and all the practice exams for the last week. That works, that's fine. But basically, you like to cram, or cache memory I talk about. So feel free to explore your learning style and then put that down. So talk about the driver's position for a little bit. The FAO, fire apparatus operator position. It is a very unique position, as in you have to be fully qualified in 2 different positions. You have to be a fully qualified driver, and all that entails, as far as the traditional definition of engineering, right? Operating equipment, truck maintenance, equipment maintenance, tool maintenance, supplies. And then you also have to be qualified to be an acting officer, because you never know. Day 1, Cap calls in sick, or Cap's on vacation, you're daddy for the day, and bam, you're in Lahaina, engine 3, and there comes that 35-acre brush fire in Ukumehame that quickly grows to 100 acres in the first hour, and you are in charge. So you have to be able to, in this position, you have to be able to perform both positions, the position of a firefighter 3 and that of a captain as well. You look at the captain's position, or the company officer position, as you see it around the country. Most, I would say majority of places that I've, again, anecdotal, but firefighters I've talked to traveling to the mainland 20 times in my career, and networking and meeting all these guys from the East Coast to the West Coast and everywhere in between. The company officer's position is usually promotable, most places I've seen, in 5 years. You can start taking the captain's exam at 5 years, or the company officer exam at 5 years. Some places, and some of the bigger, larger metropolitan departments, that some of the really prominent departments, you can test for lieutenant, their version of company officer, in as soon as 2 years. So when you think about over here, you can't even become a driver for 6, and then you can't even become a captain for the 8+2. It is my idea that our drivers have the opportunity, or our drivers are, in very many aspects, especially with the quality of our training and the quantity and quality of our training and the quality of our call type. It is my feeling that when we promote drivers, our drivers are skilled that they could be company officers pretty much anywhere else in the country. That's the quality of our drivers. It's very high, not just here on Maui, but across, or here on the island I live in, but here across the state. That is truly how I feel. So with that said, is if you are, if you're still a firefighter, or if you are, think of that career progression, right? Think of where you are now, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. Think of the time, the readiness, the tools you want to build as you look towards building towards the next position. So from a captain's, or a former, in my case, captain's perspective, man, the relationship between a driver and a captain is huge, huge, huge for the success of the company. Huge. I can't even overemphasize. As you guys know from the rules and regs, the captain is the only person in the department, company commander is the only person in the department that has their entire, all of their subordinates, everyone under their command, directly in control at all times. And a big part of that is the firefighter 3. I say you have to walk, you have to be able to do both, you have to walk in both shoes. It's because, yeah, you're a firefighter 3, your rank is still firefighter first and foremost. But on those days when you got to put on the hat and be the acting officer, you're stepping into a position that you may do once a month, maybe even less, maybe a few times a year, and you're being expected that you're going to perform as adequately as the person, the incumbent, that does that every single day. It's a huge task, huge responsibility. So for me as a company officer, if I was taking vacation or on leave or taking a class or TABC, it's almost like leaving my company with the drivers, almost like leaving your kids with a babysitter. You want to make sure that they're going to be cared for, that the person you're leaving them with can meet their needs and meet the expectations that you have as the parent in this case, or as the leader in a company, in a firehouse. When somebody gets promoted captain, I want to again emphasize, it's not like, well, I was a driver yesterday, now I'm a captain today, so I know everything, right? There's still a huge learning curve to the position of captain. And oftentimes, if you're a firefighter now, it happens much, much more than you would ever anticipate. But there are so many times when, as a captain, I would look over to my driver and, hey, what do you think? Hey, what should we do? The driver is almost an extension of the captain, is the way I always used to look at it. When it comes to problem solving as a company officer, I would easily say that I leaned on, or my drivers made between 20 to 25% of the decision making. That's how huge a role that the driver plays into the company dynamic. So I've been in situations where I've gotten along great, and my driver and I have been in sync and thought the same and reacted the same and thought the same, for good and for bad. And then I've also been in situations where I've had drivers who challenged me in the right ways that I needed to be challenged. That, hey, look at it from this perspective, both in the firehouse and on the fire ground. And then also, I've also had relationships with my drivers and also as a driver with my captains, where, wow, we really got to work on this because we got to get on the same page and we're not in sync. And the way this could affect the crew could be catastrophic, right? So again, the driver and captain being in sync is such a huge thing that needs to happen on the company for company dynamic. What you have to realize is, as a driver, is that also you carry much more weight now. You carry much more influence when you speak on the company, right? One of the expectations, whether you realize it or not, is everyone looks at you as the technical expert on the company. Like when something is not working or something's failing, you're the problem solver. So that's also a huge responsibility when you think of power tools and equipment, SCBA, actually operating an apparatus, people in a forward position with their lives dependent on the right hydraulics taking place, removed from where they are. So with that all said, the question is, are you ready? Are you ready to be a driver? And the answer does not have to be yes right now. But what this should lead you towards, if the answer is not yes right now, is what will it take for me to be ready? And again, when it comes to this study group, that's something I'm going to constantly emphasize, is tying what we do in the study group to the readiness or to the preparation, and how this study group can help you discover things about yourself, uh, help point you in a direction. And so yeah, one of the things I like to say, like for example, for the captain's prep, right? So a driver is an SR21, a captain is an SR25. If you're a driver and you feel like you're ready to be a captain, you should look at yourself as an SR24. Like you're just right there ready for that next step, right? Because it's not supposed to be a big leap if your preparation is going correctly. So in that same vein, if you are a firefighter 1 now, an SR17, and you are ready, or you feel that you're preparing yourself to be ready, you should think of yourself as an SR20, right? If a driver is an SR20, when you start think, I'm an SR20. It's minimized gap. You're doing all the things that you need to do to be ready for the position. So some of the things I can ask is, do you already run calls? Because you don't want the first call you run to be the day that you're an acting officer, a driver already. You also don't want to start running calls and, oh, I know I'm getting promoted, I'm going for interview, so I got 2 weeks, I'm going to try to run calls, right? That should be something you should talk about to your captain and your driver, even if it's just medicals, once a month, once a quarter. Jump in the front seat. So do you run calls? Do you write reports? Because writing reports is tough. And again, that's not the kind of thing, a legal document where now you're promoted and now you're trying to figure it out. That should be, you should have an adequate grasp on writing reports prior to the promotion. And then now when it comes to your skills, so you guys that know or have studied with me in the past know my phrase, right? Other people have different ones, right? Critical thinkers. Mine is assisted to autonomous. So when I think of a rookie firefighter as a captain, me being a captain, think of a rookie firefighter. I always think of rookie firefighter with me, right? A lot of places say on my hip, with me making decisions, so he can see why I'm choosing to do this, why I'm choosing to do that. When I do assign him a task or a tactic, I'm right there to watch as he develops. And that moves from assisted, so that's assisted, towards autonomous, where now we're moving in sync. We get on scene, he knows his role. He knows how to handle a task or a tactic. He doesn't need me to be on him watching anymore. I can assign him to do it himself. Now the next evolution of that is performing tactics or tasks autonomous, is being able to teach them. So this is not how the saying goes, but this is what I like to say, is those who can do teach, right? Because when you have information, it's not just that you know information, but it's that you know how to relay or communicate information. And that's a big part of this assessment, for example, right? You can read an SOG and you can know an SOG verbatim, but can you actually recite it out loud? Can you rewrite it if you had to? That's how this connects to your job as a firefighter preparing for a firefighter 3. So can you teach drills, right? You went from assisted to autonomous, you're an autonomous firefighter 1. Now can you actually teach the firefighter 1 skills? Because as a driver, you'll be expected to. How about pumping, right? You should be an autonomous pumper, as in a TA driver. But now if you are promoted to a driver in 1 month, are you able to teach those skills? Because you'll have to. You should be prepared. So these are some of the things when you focus on, when you think of SR20, you think you're ready for the driver's position. These are some of the things you can have in mind when you think about prep and what it takes, and really recognizing the role and responsibility that you're taking on. So yeah, it's a long one. I didn't mean to go 30 minutes, but yeah, video lesson 1, again, just the intro, and again, welcome, because I'm stoked. I'm stoked that you guys signed up, you all signed up and are allowing me to share just a little bit of my job knowledge, and before it all goes blowing away in the wind. But yeah, video lesson week 1. If you guys have any questions, so what I did for the captain study group, it didn't last very long because the questions kind of got wiped out, so I think I did it for like the first 2 or 3 weeks. But if you guys have questions, email me or text me, And if they can be brought up to the whole group, I'll do a midweek video where I address questions as they come up. So, and then yeah, and then I'll also answer if you have any questions. So if not, you guys will see my face next week, Sunday, for the next video lesson. All right, guys. Aloha. Thank you for listening. See you later.